Hello there, my friends. This video will show how to use the interpreting booths. Don't forget to grab the checklist and make sure you have done all the steps. Take care, my friends.
So when you log into these laptops, and it's pretty likely you'll need to use one of these laptops because you'll have one laptop, maybe your own, to plug into the front of the room, or maybe that's where you use one of these so that you can play a video, for example, if someone's not speaking live in the room. And then you're going to need another laptop for the booth where you actually record. And maybe that's your own laptop, maybe it's one of these school ones, but you probably are going to need one of the school ones if you're going to use two laptops for this setup. So when you open these up, there's a couple things that can go wrong. One, sometimes it's already logged in. Someone's already logged into it. There is no way to just log them out. What you have to do if you see one like this where someone's already logged into it, you just have to restart. That's the only way to do it. And you just say, I don't care, we're going to restart anyway. Now, on here, you're going to try and log in and it's not going to do anything. Why? Look at the icon right here. You're not actually connected to the Wi-Fi. And that's another thing that goes wrong all the time with these. You have to make sure that you're hooked up to the Wi-Fi, to Wolverine Wi-Fi is what I usually use. And once it logs into the Wi-Fi, then you'll be able to log in. So now that it's hooked up to the Wi-Fi, I should be able to put in my credentials and it will log in just fine. When you use the laptops from this cart, just remember each charge cord comes with a slot. They have a number on them. So let's say I want to use either my laptop or one of the school laptops to play a video. It could be a YouTube video. It could be from the European Commission speech repository where, I can search for videos in maybe my B language. You could search in Spanish, Portuguese, French, whatever. And if I'm interpreting into English, I'm going to look for videos in my B language. And if I want the audio from this video to play inside the booth, I have to hook it up to the front of the room to the HDMI cable. Now the problem is, if you try to put in your UVID number here, it's not going to work. You have to ask someone from the hub to do that. Marcos, would you be able to put your UVID number in? So Marcos will put his UVID in because he's a hub employee. That will allow it to log in. And then we can use USB-C if the computer has it, or HDMI to hook up our computer. And that way we'll get the audio playing over the system to get it back to where the booths are. And let's see if we can get this to work. All right, so you're probably playing something on your computer and you're like, why isn't it showing up on the projector screen? Why am I not hearing it over the speakers? You're not on the classroom PC, you're on the HDMI or perhaps the USB-C. Just because you have a Mac doesn't mean you press this button. This is for the classroom Mac, so it's either HDMI or USB-C. Now we get what's on the laptop on the monitor in the classroom and on the projector, and I think it should play over the speakers now when we play it. Yeah, now it's playing over the classroom speakers. All right, so the next step to get the audio at the front of the room to get into the booths is to turn on the mixer here. And before I turn it on, I like to make sure all of the input gain knobs are at 0 and that all of these sliders are at 0. And then there's a switch on the back that you push that way and it turns on, it boots up. Might take a little bit for it to boot up. And then you look at which input the wall cord is going into. It's line number 3. So 1, 2, 3. That's where I usually turn up the gain a little bit on number 3. I press select on it. I usually also, well, I guess it's not super necessary. You can press this, which just suppresses any spikes, which is usually nice if you have like live speakers, then that way the mic doesn't blare. But as long as you get the gain knob up a little bit, you push the slider up, you push the master knob up, and the point is to get these 3 things high enough so that the audio is loud enough inside the booth that you don't have to turn the audio volume knob on the interpreter console all the way up to be able to hear loud enough. You just want it probably about halfway or a third of the way inside the booth. So just to test things out, I'm going to play my video at the front. And we could also, as has already been shown in the video, set this up with a live mic, have a friend give a speech. But if we're using a video, I'll hit play right here. Not so I can start interpreting, so I can test the audio first. I get into the booth, my power strip is on, so I should just have to plug this in. And in this case, I don't have to worry about the transmitter. Already we have a problem. The last people to use this did not zero out the volume knobs. As soon as I plugged this in, this was blaring. If this had been in my head, I would have been really sad. It might have damaged my hearing. Always, 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 when you're done, zero out the volume knobs. It's an important rule. So now I'll plug this back in, and I know I'm not going to jack my hearing up because the volume knob is set at 0, and I can slowly increase that. Now, here's what's going on. The volume is blaring right here. There's 2 things that I can do to fix that, and we'll go over that next. The first fix is to go to audio options on the screen right here and ramp down your audio over the room speakers. This also controls the level of the audio once it gets back to the mixer, so it's a good idea to not have that too high. The second reason that my audio is going completely over level inside the booth and it's blaring is because of my settings right here. You can see all these orange lights, you can see the gain light here turning red. Those are all bad signs. So I've got to turn my gain down. I also need to turn this level down so that I don't see orange anymore. And now I'm not getting those orange signals that it's clipping. This red light, to be honest with you, I think that means the gain is still too high. But I've got the gain all the way down. So the other thing you can do is there's this negative 26 decibels button. I press that, it's no longer turning red. And now I can boost my gain a little bit more. Essentially, this gets rid of that clipping. But now my levels are super low, and so I'm going to want to push those up. I still don't want them to be orange, so I've got to keep them low enough that it doesn't move into orange territory. But I get rid of the blaring and the clipping, I move my gain up a little bit more, and I move this slider. It's almost all the way up. And now let's listen to the audio in the booth. So now I'm going to put my headset back on. Once I know that the volume's at 0, always make sure your volume knob is at 0 before you put these on. And I'll slowly move it up. I've got it halfway up, and the volume is pretty comfortable. I can get it louder if I want, but this is where we want our audio. What we have right here on the output of the interpreter console is a splitter. So it takes the signal, splits it into 2 different cables. This one's going to our transmitter, and this one is dropping under the table and coming out here to what's called an audio interface. Essentially, this allows audio to talk to our computer. And the power for this audio interface, there is a power cord inside its case right here, but as soon as you plug it in to the USB-A port of our computer, then you're able to power it on. There's a switch in the back where you can turn it on. And there's a few different settings here. Essentially, where we have the mic going in, this is our control over like the audio right there. And we should see the levels jumping once we have our video playing. Now I've started playing my video again and I don't see the levels jumping here. Why? It's because this isn't ever going to receive signal from what's happening at the front of the room. This is receiving signal from our interpreter console. So for it to receive signal, I have to turn one of my mics on. It literally doesn't matter what's happening in the earpiece. The only thing that matters is what's happening in the microphone. And so if I turn one of the mics on and I start talking, immediately I can see that we do have input in channel number 1. And there's different things that you can do, like different settings here. And to be honest with you, I have no clue what these settings do. But if you turn this gain knob up, you're going to see the input is louder. And I guess the point is to have the input at a sufficient volume so it can go into our computer, but not have it too loud. We once again don't really want it to be clipping and all that. And there is an option here. There's these two buttons. This is more for instruments. And this one right here, I honestly don't know what it does. I try to just probably keep that off, but now I don't even know how to turn it off. All right, there, it's off. And as long as we see those green lights there, we know it's working. Okay, so now we've arrived at how do you record your audio while you're interpreting. And the audio is going from this into our computer. If it's your own computer, you can record it however you want. But if it's one of the school computers, you need to use Kaltura, because anything that gets saved on this computer, it gets wiped every single night. And so if we go to Canvas and we open up My Media, and then you click on the Create button and you go down to Capture. When we click on this in the browser, it's going to automatically open the Kaltura Capture application on the school laptop. Sometimes it just takes a little while for this to happen. So notice how it took like 10 seconds for it to bring that up. We don't really need the browser anymore. I'm just going to minimize that. And now the Kaltura Capture application is starting up. And it doesn't really make sense to record your screen. It would be the screen of this laptop. It doesn't make that much sense to have the camera involved. And so I just make sure those are turned off. You can turn them on if you want. I think this is blocking the camera view right now. We just broke the third wall. All right, so we'll keep the screen and the camera off, but you have to make sure the audio is connected. And notice how we've got the microphone array, Realtek Audio. That's the microphone of this laptop. You actually want to select the microphone from the Volt. What is the Volt? The Volt is our audio interface. Now we're ready to record. And so you could get your video up at the front of the room, playing to where you want it to have it start. Run into the booth. Typically, it's a good idea to shut the door on the booth, because if you don't, the speaker audio from the room will bleed into your microphone inside the booth. And so I usually shut the door, and then you press record. Our recording button on the interpreter console is going. You have to make sure If you look at the interpreting console here, if this button isn't pressed, the audio is not getting to the computer. But now I'll put my headset on, adjust the volume where I want it, and I can start interpreting, and it's recording everything on Kaltura Capture. When I'm done, I just have to hit the stop button. I say, yes, I'm sure, stop the recording. And now to make sure your Kaltura Capture recording gets off of this computer and onto Canvas so that you can listen to it later, because the whole point of interpreting practice is to get feedback. You could have a classmate listen live in the booth with you and write down notes and give you feedback. That would be great. But you can also give yourself feedback if you listen to your recording later on and you say, oh, okay, I didn't finish my sentence there. Oh, I'm breathing into the mic too loud. Oh, over here I said something that didn't even make sense. Over here I had like 4 false starts. So you can write, like it already has the date on here by default, and so maybe you just keep that date and you say interpreting practice or something like simultaneous practice. And when you click save and upload, it's going to upload your recording to My Media on Canvas. And typically, because we're not using video and it's just a single audio track, this is something that can happen pretty quickly. Went to 100%, then went back to 10%. There. That took like 30 seconds. If the recording's longer, it might take longer. But the point is now you can delete this off the computer. It'll probably get deleted overnight anyway. And you can completely just log off of this machine and your recording will be saved on My Media. All right, a couple of cleanup steps once you're done practicing in here. Make sure you unplug the interpreter console. That's the only way to turn it off, is to unplug it. And then make sure you also turn the audio interface off. I mean, it doesn't really have power because we unplugged it from the computer, but it's a good idea to just turn that power switch off. The power strip on the floor, you can leave it on, it's okay. If you turned the fans on the top, please make sure you turn those fans off. Up front, there's also some cleanup steps, and you don't need anyone from the Language Hub to do these steps. Even though you unplug, for example, your computer, it doesn't mean you're done, because if you've been using the projector, then the projector's still on. If you're practicing with a video or some audio from your computer, you have the option to completely turn the projector off. This one that says blank, this just makes it so nothing shows on the screen, but the projector is still powered up and going, which kind of wastes the bulb life, or at least I think it does. If you want to save the bulb life, which those bulbs are expensive, just turn the projector off. But you can have the projector on while you're practicing, that way you have the visuals of the video to look at while you're doing your simultaneous practice, which the visuals are helpful. But when you're completely done, all you have to do is press the shutdown system button, hit yes, and that makes sure that everything is shut down and we're not wasting power, and that person who signed you in from the hub isn't signed in for no reason. When you go to log out of this computer, I guess there's a couple ways you could do it. One, you could just restart it. There's no shutdown, but you can just restart it. You don't really need to restart it though. If you want to log off, there's no option from here. You can see it just says lock or restart. And so to make it easier for the next person that uses the laptop, they have this desktop shortcut that says log off, and you just have to double click that icon, and that will do what normally would be in the other option menu to log you off.
That is all, my friends. Have a great day.